All right, welcome Senior Home Business family. Glad you're here today. Brittany and Matt are here. We're talking about obviously senior placement, and today we're going to talk about how to overcome an objection. An objection, let us think about it. We talk about all the time, Brittany, this industry, this business is not sales. However, you will get objections along the way. And so even though it is more customer service oriented, the sales aspect of it, you need to know how to overcome these objections, because life in general you're going to be faced with objections. Any type of uh, company that's selling anything, service or product, they're going to have objections. I've probably given thousands of objections to people that wanted to sell me on something. And we're going to go through how to handle that in the senior placement business, because it's a little bit different, but it does happen. So before we do, if you'd like to know more about what Brittany and I do on a daily basis and helping seniors to get from where they are to where they need to be, and that could be an independent community, could be an assisted living or memory care community, drop down and just click and watch a webinar. There's a few other links down there you might enjoy. A 3-day workshop to a senior placement challenge is coming up, and all kinds of other stuff. But we'd love to talk to you. But Brittany, let's get into it today. Let us think about it. I mean, that is a lot. Probably the biggest objection I hear on the coaching side, definitely. Whenever I talk to somebody about this business, I get on a consultation call with them. Usually it's, let me think about it. And someone says that, you really have to ask, when they say that statement, let us think about it, let me think about it, why are they saying that? Like for me, for instance, like I said at the beginning, I've given this objection 1,000 times to other people. And anytime I said, let me think about it, I never really went home and thought about it. I went home, did my normal routine, sit down, watch my favorite TV show, went to bed, got up the next day. It may have crossed my mind, periodically, but didn't really give it a whole lot of thought. So I really want to go over some 5 reasons why people say, let us think about it. And I think the first one in this industry is financial concerns, right? It could be some embarrassment, could be some uncertainty. I never really, when I was broke 10 years ago, I really didn't tell people, well, I just can't afford it. I would just say, hey, let me think about it. But the reality was the financial, the price objection. And how can we overcome that? Because we're going to get that a lot in this industry, right? This is a high ticket deal. I mean, people are spending $5, $6, $7, $8,000, sometimes higher per month. It could be lower if you got a share and those type things, but kind of the sweet spot is like $5,000, $6,000 a month. So if you're thinking about $5,000 a month, I mean, you're talking about somebody spending $60,000 a year. Now, it's important because their mom or dad are being cared for, but where the rubber meets the road is, it's still a financial concern, right? So, Brittany, how would you overcome that? Just someone you're talking to and you've gone through the process, or you've gone through that initial conversation with them, and then they say, man, Brittany, I don't know. I need to think about it. And then you somehow get that out of them. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to get these things out of them. But at this point, you've already got, hey, it's a financial concern. How would you address that?
I think for sure, like creating a safe space for them to be able to open up about this, and position yourself as not a salesperson is huge in this portion of the intake or the conversation with the family. I feel like I've even had families that have enough finances but don't want to come out with them, is also part of the financial concern. Like they don't want to reveal their financial situation, and they just feel like if they keep it close, they'll get a better deal, or they just won't, have to spend it, or whatever their theory is. So I think a lot of it is just opening up the door for a safe space. How I do it is I actually I'm not a financial planner, but actually looking at some numbers with them for the long term. Most of the financial concerns that I see, if they're on the fence, is because of the long term and the unpredictability of how long will mom or dad live? How long will they be here with us? What if their care increases? What if they need memory care? So a lot of times how I combat it is the planning side of it, is having the resources, having the knowledge to chat with them. And I would say majority of my clients do open up to me about finances, and it's just getting them building that trust to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, to your point about them opening up, I do have a lot of clients that will tell me at the beginning, now I know this is expensive, but we can only afford X number of dollars. And I really appreciate that because they're being transparent, they're being honest. And, when someone's transparent and honest, you really can help them to the next level. But if they don't share, it's kind of hard to pull that out. And so when you get somebody that says, let me think about it, I think the average person, whether in sales or a senior placement agent, what they typically do is they kind of go, okay, well, hey, Bill, just think about it. And I'm here if you need me. If you have any other questions, call me back, blah, blah, blah. Well, think about this. You've already got the person on the phone or a Zoom, however you're doing it, or in person, whatever you're doing. And you're meeting with the person, let's say it's on the phone, and they say, let me think about it. And say, Bill, I totally get it. I mean, this is a big decision on your part. If I was you, I definitely would think about it. I know there's a process you go through. You might need to talk to your siblings. You might need to talk to your wife, whatever it may be, but think about it. But while we're on the phone right now, I want to help you. So as you're processing this, what is it you're going to think about? And maybe I can help you now. And so then that sometimes pulls it out of them, or they might just say, hey, I just need to think about it. I need to go. I'll call you back. Then another thing you want to say, if you get to that point, because you kind of feel like the person is putting up a wall and there's this kind of, I don't want to talk right now, or I can't talk right now. Say, hey, Bill, I know you're in a hurry. Before you go, I know you're going to think about it. I really want to help you. Let's get you back on my schedule. Do you have your calendar in front of you? I really want to help you. I've got some time later on this week. I'm really busy with blah, 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 whatever you're busy with. And, let's schedule a time where we can think about it, together. And a lot of times they're open to it because, it's a pressing need with mom or dad going into senior living. It's a very traumatic experience. It's a very difficult decision in a lot of different ways, emotionally, not just financially, but in this case, let's say it's finances. And that comes out, well, man, I just don't have the money for it. And then what I do, if they have the time at that point, go ahead and go into that conversation about the money. If they're putting up the major roadblock, or you kind of hear things in the background, let's say they're at work, and it's a legitimate reason they can't, continue the conversation, don't push it. Just say, hey, let's get on my calendar. So let's process this. And what will help you is the next time you go into conversation with them, you're going to know that that's the objection, right? So a lot of times when they say, we can't afford this, they say, instead of saying we can't afford this, they say, let me think about it, right? I know I did that when I was broke and I go to an auto dealership and there was a certain car I wanted. I usually didn't say I can't afford it. I'd say, let me think about it. And then the salesperson typically would go, yeah, no big deal, man. Here's my card. Give me a call when you're ready, or you got any more questions? Well, it's not the questions. It's really getting to the root of why are they thinking about it? What's the root? What's the certain thing they're going to process, and who is involved in that decision-making process? So when it comes down to money, how you can help them, there's senior programs that are out there. It's not that many. I've said this many times. I hate saying there's programs, like it is plural, but it's not a whole lot. And you can help them with that. You can let them know, hey, there's some programs that are available. I'd like to explore those programs with you. And you're really coming across, hopefully, as an advocate for seniors, right? You don't have in your mind trying to make a sale, trying to get a move in to get money, even though you need that to sustain your business. It's really helping them because they might only have $3,000 a month. And I say only, that's still a lot, right? That's still $36,000 a year they can allocate for senior living, but senior living is expensive. And Brittney, you've heard me say this many times. I'll say that to families, when we start talking about money, I say, you know what? Assisted living is ungodly expensive. And what you want to do is you want to agree with them, right? And when you agree with somebody with an objection, like financial objection, you're on their side. You don't want to come across like, only have $3,000, they're saying. And then you go, well, I mean, what is your mom or dad's care worth? I mean, you don't want to come across like that. So you just say, hey, I totally get it. Assisted living is expensive. Let's see if we can work with some of these programs. Let me see if I can help you. I do negotiate for seniors, which we really do. I don't just say that. So I might be able to negotiate. And there's a there's a certain threshold you can't go below, right? If somebody's telling me they got $1,200 SSI per month, but I still come across that way. And that turns into what we call a pro bono kind of deal, where I'm helping them, realizing I'm not getting paid for it, but it's okay. I'm still going to help them. So, but another objection would be not only money, they just met you, or they're just talking to you for the first time, right? So let's say they got my information from a social worker or from some other person as my resource, my referral kind of system kind of deal, right? There might be a little lack of trust or connection. So Brittney, what do we do to establish rapport with those individuals? Like, if we kind of feel that, right? They just wanted to get to know us, because a lot of families today are searching online, right? They're searching online. They got a lot of more information at their disposal than they did years ago. And they might have a lot of the information, and in the back of their mind, they might be thinking, oh, you're just doing it for the money. How do you overcome that and help establish rapport and trust with the families?
I think a big thing is listening and showing compassion for their situation. More families reach out to us, whether it's crisis mode or even just the uncertainty of planning for the future. So giving that human connection, not coming off salesy, genuinely coming off that you're an advocate for seniors and that you have compassion for what they're going through. I think a big thing too, as well as to establish trust, is to show your knowledge. Not meaning that you bombard them with all the things senior living and everything about senior living, but being able to have a conversation with the family about their loved one and showing that you know what they're going through. It could be as simple as, I know your mom's in rehab. She probably has an average of about 21 days, 20 days. They hear that stuff and they've heard it before. So you're probably repeating stuff they've already heard from the hospital, from the rehab, from their neighbor, whatever that is. And then you're also showing that you know more than they know. So most families, even if they've been on Google or they've been on a national company, they don't know how to navigate this. So as soon as they feel like you know more than them, not in like a cocky, egotistical way, but they know that you can help them. So I feel like the more that I share my knowledge with them when appropriate in the conversation, the more they're like, oh yeah, you know more than me, sign me up. I need help right now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Because when I get talking with individuals and I kind of get that feeling that they're distant, the education piece, what you're talking about, is so important. And then what I typically do is, start talking kind of like you did, as far as the information about the process. And I always assume, and this is where it can get you in trouble, I realize, but I use the assumptive close a lot. I just assume that they're going to work with me and I'm going to work for them. And even though they might have a lack of trust, or I kind of feel a cold, feeling on the phone, because there's a level of uncertainty about me or who I am, what's my motivation in doing it. And they still might be unclear whether they're going to pay me or not, all those kind of things. I just go right into the senior story and listen, and then offer input along the way as to what they need to do next. So by doing that, I do all, and I know you do too, Brittney, as far as I begin to assist and help even before I get the commitment. And I think a lot of senior placement agents, what they want is that commitment first. Like, okay, well, I'm here to help you. If you want me to help you, I can do it. But I need you to fill out my contact form or whatever documentation you have, and you start moving those individuals into filling out stuff. I don't do that. I just have it from a conversational standpoint, listening, being in tune with what they're saying. And then a lot of it too is how you talk to the individual. Kind of like the way we're talking right now is the way you want to talk with a client. You don't want to come across, like I got on here too, that if they don't fully trust you yet, whether it's because they just met you or feel more like a salesperson, if you come across like a salesperson, that you're trying to do something for your benefit and not theirs, it's going to be difficult. And that barrier, that wall, of distrust will probably remain there. But if you come across as a person that's guiding them through the process, which Brittney, you said beautifully in terms of what they can expect, right? So if mom's in say skilled nursing and she's there and she has 21 more days, or she's being ready to be discharged, let's say 3 days from now. Well, if I know if she's being discharged 3 days from now, I know she's about to go to a private pay status. And if she's going to a private pay status, then I speak on terms of what it's going to cost to remain there. And then if she doesn't remain there because of the price tag, which I agree, it's awfully expensive per day, then what's going to happen when mom goes back home? And how are you going to take care? So I dive right into it. And I just, kind of put myself in their shoes, right? And have that conversation with them. Another reason why they, want to think about it. And that's what we're talking about today. Why would people say that? I just want to think about it. And you've experienced this, I'm sure, hundreds of times, Brittney. It's just, it comes down to not just finances. They might have a lot of money at their disposal to handle the situation. It might not be a lack of trust. It just might be they're dealing with this guilt and emotion, where they feel like they're abandoning mom or dad. They feel like, they're putting their mom or dad somewhere. And that's a real emotion, you guys. So, how you deal with that, you really got to be a person of empathy. It really has to come from your heart. You really have to be super understanding. Even though as a senior placement agent, you might be out there already moving 5, 10, 15 per month, and you're just kind of in this system and this cycle of moving people, and it becomes what you do, but you really got to get to the core of how they're feeling. And it's not that you become their counselor, but it's really a place of understanding, right, Brittney?
Yeah, agreed. I get a lot of, like what you alluded to is, I promised my parents I would never put them in a home. That's a very common, just comment that I hear a lot. But yeah, you just have to put your heart in and put yourself in their shoes. Instead of looking for the next deposit, the next move-in date with these families, you really do have to put yourself where they're at and understand where they're at. And this objection definitely can be like, let's think about it because of the guilt. If we, that's where it's coming from. There are ways to get the families to that point of where they could experience more guilt down the line if they don't place their loved ones into senior living. So there's ways to go about it, but not a salesy way, just a real way. If anything, our job as senior placement agents and advocates is to educate. This would be where education comes into play with the guilt too. I'm always looking big picture, where there could be more guilt down the road if they're not in the right place.
Yeah. And I got this on the screen here. I kind of thought about, this emotional kind of feeling, let us think about it, could be this, because this could be their way of dealing with, just delaying the guilt and grief, right? Kind of putting off, right? Plenty of people, maybe you out there in the audience, I know I've done this many times in my own life. We procrastinate. We put things off. It's just, if I push it out away from me, maybe I don't have to deal with it. Definitely not now, and maybe not even soon. It might be down the road. And so they're always looking for reasons why mom or dad should move a couple months from now, right? And it's, sometimes that's just not the best, for mom or dad. It's not in their best interest. But I totally get it. So you have to be careful as you talk with individuals that you are guiding them through a process and not coming across like you're telling them what to do. If you're going to overcome this emotional objection, you're going to have to feel what they feel. And I've had clients cry on the phone. I've had clients get mad on the phone. I've had clients not show any emotion whatsoever. I've had the worst kind of extreme where they didn't care where mom or dad went. There's all kinds of levels of emotion that comes across. And that's why I believe the most successful senior placement agents that are out there are ones that are empathetic, ones that really understand, where the family's coming from. They're not, you know, no one wants to think about this, right? No one wants to think about their mom or dad going to senior living. I don't know. I know it's a business. I know it's a necessity. I know it's what I do, but nobody wants to think about that, right? The other extreme would be like life insurance. I mean, the reason people put off getting life insurance because they have to come to grips with someone's going to die, probably me, and I got to take care of my family, and I really don't want to think about that right now. That's something I can do later. And to this degree, it's
Planning a
not.
funeral,
What's that?
pre-planning your burial.
Yeah,
That's a big one
yeah.
too. Yeah.
That's exactly right. It's pre-planning a funeral. It's, it's very traumatic, and you will be a better senior placement agent if you begin to understand where the family's coming from, and not trying to overcome. Let me think about it, and now you determine it's more emotional. So again, how do you overcome this whole? Let me think about it. Whatever level, and we're gonna get to two more points here. Is you've got to have a conversation with them. And again, if it's let me think about it, you have to somehow define what are they thinking about. Because again, if you go back to what I said before, if you just go, okay, yeah, no problem, Bill, think about it, call me when you need me, or if you need, you have more questions, you really didn't get to the root of what they're thinking about. You don't even know what they're thinking about. And you could be the exact person to help them through this, right? Instead of thinking about just a move in. So the other one is, Brittany, is just, I think families are just overwhelmed with information overload, right? There's so much at their disposal via internet. Now we got TSL. There's all kinds of other things that are out there. There's so much information. They hear from their friends, their coworkers, families. They've experienced certain things. Senior living's been around forever, but it's just, now it's time for them to make a very important decision about their mom or dad, and they're just overwhelmed. So if you kind of get the feeling of someone being overwhelmed, they say, let me think about it, and your sense is they're overwhelmed, how would you handle that?
I would bring them back. So I get a lot of this where they're getting a lot of input from everybody. So once you've built that trust, and hopefully you have at this point, when you know they're being overwhelmed, is kind of just take some of that stress off their plate. I get back down to exactly what mom or dad or your loved one needs, or what were the main reasons why we're looking. If time frame is the problem, they're just overwhelmed and information overload, kind of take a lot of that down and just strip it down to, okay, this is what your loved one needs. This is the next step. I think another thing too is having a clear direction on next steps. I see some families they get so overwhelmed, they just stop thinking. I think we're all guilty of that to some degree, and they don't know where to go next. So if you're a senior placement agent, making sure they know after this comes this, that way they have a clear direction on which way to go. I had a family yesterday. I've never heard this in all the years I've been doing this. They had toured 2 places, and her response was, I have no opinion. I'm so overwhelmed. I just don't remember where we just went. I have no opinion. That's the first time I've ever heard that. No good, no bad, just nothing. And just an example to come to what happened, it was just so much. They have a mom and a dad. Mom just went to rehab. She's now a diabetic as of yesterday. So during that instance, we just got back down to the root of, we know when the loved ones need to move at this point, and we just got down to next steps. But it's just getting them back to the process, I think, is huge, because they will post on Facebook, I'm looking for assisted living. What's a good assisted living? Here comes 50 pumping out, that could not be a good fit. So I think just educating them and getting them to the next step will kind of combat some of that overwhelming information overload and ground them.
Yeah. And so when families do feel overwhelmed, the kind of the default is the pause mode, right? I mean, think about, audience, when you're overwhelmed about anything, you just kind of put things on pause, right? You just, I've told you, Brittany, I think I mentioned on this channel, one of our dogs passed away unexpectedly, October 17th. And for a day or two, my life was on pause because I was just thinking all about that tragedy. And, with families that are overwhelmed with information, sometimes they go in that default mode of putting it on pause. Like, I want to think about it, and I got so much information, but they really don't know necessarily how to process that information. And that's where you're great at this, Brittany, is that you as a senior placement agent, you're able to help somebody process this information. So just because somebody says, I want to think about it, and you got to the point of them, you realizing what they're thinking about is they're actually overwhelmed. You can actually help them get out of that place of being overwhelmed to a place of clarity. And when we have so much information, it's, it sometimes is difficult because we don't have clarity. Like I got a ton of books over here, Brittany, that I've read. Some of them I have not read. There's a lot of things on ChatGPT or on the internet and YouTube and a lot of different areas. And we get so inundated with information that it's just like, how do we process it all? And that's really where the family's at sometimes. They just don't know, am I making the right decision or not? I got 10 communities that I've been exposed to one way or the other on the internet. I've taken a tour, a family told me about this one and whatever it may be. But how am I going to be certain that I'm going to make the right decision? And that's a hard thing because they are putting their loved one in the direct care and expecting these caregivers who they've never met, this community, they've met the marketing director, may have met the executive director, but don't know the other staff, never met the chef, even though they say they have great food, never met the activity director, even though they do a lot of activities. I mean, how are they going to help my mom or dad? Do they have my mom and dad's best interest in mind? So they're just overwhelmed. And, we need to get them to the place of clarity and peace of mind that they are making the right decision, and not just to land on any community, but a community that they feel really good about. They have, it's a good, we talk about good vibes when somebody walks in to a community for their first initial tour. It's okay, good vibe. I feel like this is a great place. But then when they leave, and they start telling maybe their siblings or other people about it, then other questions come up. And then they start to doubt their decision, and which is okay for decision-making process. But as a senior placement agent, this is going to make you extremely valuable in your community if you help people process this information and not just excuse it, and not just try to get them to select one, and not just come back to them and say, well, you know what, if you select this community over here, man, they got a move-in special. If you select this community over here, oh my gosh, they only have one bed available, we can get them in. All these sales tactics just flies in the face of these families as just a salesperson, especially when they're overwhelmed. They're like, you're just trying to, force me to make a decision. And we're not trying to force them to make a decision. We want to help them in making the most important decision they can make for their mom or dad. Because in reality, this 95% of the time, if not higher, this is the last place that their mom or dad are going to live. I mean, this is the last place they're going to lay their head, right? 95% of the time. Now, there's chances when they move back home and things get better, but by and large, they're going to live there unless they go to a memory care or whatever it may be. So let's get into the fifth one, Brittany, is influence of family decision makers. So sometimes when they say, I need to think about it, what they're saying is, I need to go talk to Susie, my sister. I need to go talk to Bill, my brother. I need to go talk to a friend, coworker, whatever it may be. And so when we pull that, extract that out, that is the reason they're going to think about it. What is our comeback to that?
I think a really good tactic here is to see if your point of contact is willing to have a family powwow with you involved. Group Zoom, group call, group in-person meeting. That would be one of the times that I do ask if they're open to that, especially if your point of contact is really on board, but the big objection is a family member. And a lot of times having that group call, that group Zoom, or that group meeting in person allows you to be the unbiased party and get everybody on the same page.
Definitely. I love online meetings, and this is one of the main reasons why I do. Not saying everybody has to do it this way. I didn't do it when I first started my business, but just before COVID, I started doing it out of necessity for some seniors I was meeting in skilled nursing, didn't have a clue where they were going. And I've been doing it ever since. And I love it because we're able to, pull these family members that might be out of the city, out of the state, or just, can't meet during the day. They work until 7 o'clock at night. I don't mind jumping on a Zoom or a StreamYard at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, something like that, and talk with the family. And we do that kind of thing. So you're able to bring in all the decision makers. And what's cool about that is, you guys, if you do this approach, is you'll have all the questions of all the potential decision makers. Now, that might not be the POA and all that, but still they're going to be very influential in this decision, because if there's a sister or brother involved and they're adamantly opposed to mom going to a senior living community, you rather have that expressed in a group format with you there. Not that you're trying to convince them otherwise, but yet you can be there to address their questions. And it's powerful. But that's definitely one way when people say, hey, I want to think about it, is they need to go and talk to others. And so you need to be able to extract that out. And there's some ways to do this. But so again, going back, if someone says, I need to think about it, okay, what you need to do is agree with them. Say, I would definitely think about it too. This is a very important decision. Now, Bill, as you're thinking about it, what are some things you're thinking about now that I can help you? And then based on what they say, probably going to land in one of these 5 areas. If they put up that wall, or again, you hear a lot of commotion in the background, it's very legitimate that they just can't talk. They're in a grocery store, at work, or whatever it may be. Say, Bill, I totally get it. You can't talk right now. I want to help you through this decision-making process. Do you have your calendar in front of you real quick? I love to schedule a time with you later on the week. I have some free time later in a couple of days. Let's compare calendars and let's talk about it. I'll help you out. I'm telling you, most people will respond to that. Most people would appreciate that, because you're exploring their thoughts, their concerns, things that they feel negative about senior living, because there's a lot of people out there that are super negative about senior living based on some of the experiences they've had. And you can help navigate them through this process, but you can't do it if you just let them say, let me think about it, and you get them off the phone, off the call, or you're in person, you just kind of part ways and you're expecting them to call you back. Because if they're going to call, they're not going to call you back most of the time. So, and you don't want to be in the chase mode of calling them all the time. Hey, Bill, hey, we talked the other day about senior living. Just want to see if you're still thinking about it. And that goes nowhere. Do it on the phone or get the next appointment scheduled. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys today. But you're going to hear about that. I know typically, and let us think about it, it's typically in sales, but you're going to hear about it in senior placement as well. You're going to need to be prepared. Think about some of the objections that we just went over, the 5. Maybe there's more you can think about, and write those things down. Practice, be prepared when you have that objection. Know how to overcome it. And when you know how to overcome it, you'll be a lot more successful, not only in your own business, that's the byproduct, but the main thing is you're going to be more successful in helping that family. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys today. Again, if you want to know more about what Brittney and I do, about the Senior Placement Institute and our coaching and everything else, you can click some links down below. But until next time, God bless.